Hey, welcome back here with Wrench and Mafia. Today, we're going to be working on Project T-Boss, which is basically a 2021 Chevy Silverado 1500 Trail Boss Edition with a 5.3 liter engine. We are going to be removing this old box in here and installing the new K&N air filter kit. So basically, of course, we're going to get into it. So before we get started, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you guys don't miss these videos out. So basically, I'm going to show you what tools we need, the removal and installation process. So let's get started. These are the tools you're going to use or need for this project. 1/4 inch socket, 7, 8, and 10 millimeter sockets, 1/4 inch ratchet, 1/4 inch extension. You're going to need a 10 millimeter wrench, a 3 millimeter Allen. This is for the updated bolts for the air mass meter. You're going to need a T20 Torx to remove the air mass meter on the old airbox. A body clip removal tool. You could also use for the clamps. I use sockets, but you could use a flathead screwdriver. I want to give a special thanks to Unisafe Gloves for supplying us with these gloves when it comes to these projects. Check them out. I'll link their info in my description. So whenever you need gloves, they're your to go, and they'll take care of you. So let's get started into the project. So the first thing we need to do is basically remove this old box. You could use a flathead screwdriver, but I'm going to use basically a 7 millimeter socket with my 1/4 inch extension and just loosen up these two clamps. There's going to be one right here at the intake box and then one at the throttle body, which is down here. So we're going to loosen up these right here. Once those are loose, what we want to do is basically remove, that should be loose. We want to disconnect this plug here. All you got to do is squeeze that tab. Comes right out. From there, we should be able to remove this. Should come right out easily. The next step is basically, of course, we want to disconnect the air mass meter connector, and we want to remove this from the airbox, and we're going to remove our 10 millimeter bolt, or I should say, or nut. That's going to loosen up this airbox. The one thing I like to do is just kind of push this red. You got to be careful with that. You squeeze back part right here, and it should come right out. And then with here, we should be able. Oh, we just popped it right up. Kind of slid up, and then we're going to remove that 10 millimeter, and we're going to remove that airbox. One more thing we want to do, of course, there's the harness here that we want to use or clip removal, and then from there we should be able to pop this up. So before we remove the airbox, it looks like we have to remove the air duct that goes into the airbox itself. So we got to remove these clips here. There's a couple here that we're going to remove, and we're going to move this cowl to the side in order to get to the air duct and move it in order for us to remove that airbox. All you got to do is pop these clips out. Just like that. And we're going to do all of them and move this cowl. So once we remove our cowl, we want to basically remove this clip here. We got to make sure we don't drop it in there. I'll set this to the side. And then, as you can see there, we're just going to remove the air duct. And now help us remove that airbox. Now we should be able to remove this with easy effort. So now that we have our old intake system out of the vehicle, what we want to do, of course, is installation or assembling the new intake to this vehicle. So the first thing we want to do is put this airbox, and we're going to assemble it, and we're going to show you guys how we install it. So here we have our new intake system, the K&N one. So what we want to do is basically, what I like to do is kind of set everything and be able to tell where all my parts are at. And this kit, of course, came with the air filter, with the air duct, the airbox, the sealings, the seals, and everything hardware to install this. So first thing we want to do, of course, is get this going in the vehicle and install it. So the first thing we had to assemble was this air box where the filter goes in. So basically pretty straightforward. This is the bracket where your main connector gets held onto. We got to transfer this grommet. From there we got to put this weather or this seal around it. And of course just this mounting point here with these two bolts, and it was pretty straightforward. So now we're going to install this into the truck itself. So once we have this box in here, the next thing we can do is tighten up this 10mm. And you want to make sure that everything's secured properly. And as we do that next, we're going to install the harness. So I'm going to tighten that up first. And once I tighten that up, we'll be putting this right here, just like that. And of course, I'll tighten that up. And then we want to put our air box. It's hard to tell down there, but we want to line it up. Once it's snug in there, hopefully you can see that right there. We'll be able to put our clip back on here. And the next step will be to put the intake. And we want to put an air mass meter. So I removed the old one. It has two Torx. They're T20s. So all I'm going to do is install our air mass meter. Want to make sure we snug it nice and tight, but you don't want to over tighten these. And I believe when you remove them, they're two T20s, but I believe the kit comes with these Allens. So we're going to install these. Once we tighten these up, we put our couplers on the vehicle. That way we can put our intake pipe. That will be the next step. So we are going to be putting our intake pipe in. Now that we have our intake pipe in, we want to connect our air mass meter. Plug. Make sure it clicks, and we're going to push the little red tab. And then we are going to tighten up these 8mm on these clamps. So once those are all tight, the next step is, of course, I'm going to put this hose here, which we're going to adapt to it, and then we're going to put our filter element. So K&N also, there's an updated hose that we got to put with this kit. It's a hose with, of course, these clamps that you got to attach to it and tighten them up. And then once they're tight, they're just, all you got to do is push. When you hear the click, they're on there. So we got to do the same thing for this side. So we kind of got to face it upward. Like we said, once it clicks, I try to make it to where there's no kink. I am going to be putting adapter for this later on, so a different hose, so it looks a little bit more, I think, more stock. So the last thing we got to do is put the air filter element, and we should be done. So once we tighten up our air filter clamp, we're all set. We are all done. The last thing we got to do, of course, is put the K&N sticker. Without it, it ain't a K&N. So we're going to start it up, see how it sounds, the before and after. We are going to go on a test drive. Let's see how it sounds. So stay tuned and let's go. So this is how the engine sounds before we install the K&N and with the stock air filter. This is how the engine sounds after we install the K&N air filter kit. So I test drove the truck after putting the K&N air filter. One thing I do notice, it sounds a little bit more louder. I do get a little bit more of a throttle response when I step on the gas. but I definitely see an increase of noise, more of that roar as you give it gas. Like I said, we're going to be driving a little bit more, and then we'll do a review, maybe 6 months, and see what I think about the fuel economy and if it, any performance. I want to say thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys hit the like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.